Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody back to the podcast. I'm so excited to be with you here today. And if you are watching this on my new YouTube channel, hi, it's so nice to meet you. My name is Danielle Savory. I am a sex and pleasure coach. I've worked with thousands of women over the last decade, helping them expand their body for more pleasure, rewire their brain for the deep type of connection and intimacy they want, and hack their nervous system to really, truly be able to not only experience desire, but the type of orgasms that are going to light up your life. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I really wanted to start with this idea of what comes first when it comes to desire, because so many women are asking me, like, okay, well, I want it more. Like, I actually do want to want it, and they're in a position that they don't. Now, there's a couple of different ways that I can answer this question, but the first one that I want to talk with is the fact that if you are having the kind of sex that turns you on, if you are having the kind of sex that lights you up that you crave, guess what? It's so much easier to want it. And that is not the only part, because desire is a very complex thing. You may hear that and be like, well, every time I do have it, it actually is really good. And I am filled with a lot of pleasure. And I am like, why don't I do this more often? And then we wonder why we don't want it. So I really want to start there with this idea of, if you are already feeling like you have pretty good sex, like, it's fine. It's fun. You feel connected. You feel flirty. You feel playful. You feel turned on. You have a couple of orgasms. And then afterwards, you're like, I should be doing this more. But then a couple nights later, you're like, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. And every single time you feel like you're trying to talk yourself into it. You feel like you're trying to convince yourself. So why does this phenomenon happen? Why is it that you could be having the best sex of your life and still not want it? And the answer to this question is, it comes down to the way that our brain is motivated, and oftentimes what comes in the way of that, which happens to be resistance. So, when we're talking about desire, the way that I like to think about desire and the way that I explain desire to my clients is, it's a leaning in. Okay. It's a leaning in, it's a willingness. It's like, okay, maybe I want this. Maybe I'm going to try a little bit more. Now, oftentimes, the way that we think that desire is supposed to work is how it's represented in the media. And in the world of sexuality, we call this spontaneous desire. Your partner walks through the door and they're moving towards you. Maybe you get a whiff of their pheromones and all of a sudden you want to drop your drawers and your loins are on fire. Okay. This is spontaneous desire. And the fact of the matter is for most women, this is not the kind of desire that we experience. And your kind of desire is going to fluctuate in the time of your life, in the time of your month, of your monthly cycle. It is going to change. So we really want to understand that there are different types of operating systems going on. So most of us women are going to experience what's called responsive desire. And responsive desire means that you have to be in action before your brain's like, you know what? This is a good idea. This actually does feel good. Let's go ahead and get it on. Okay. So spontaneous desire, the wanting, the leaning in, that I kind of want a little piece of that, precedes the kissing, the action, the touching, the massaging, the moving all over the place. Responsive desire begins with you actually maybe doing a little of rubbing around, maybe doing a little making out, maybe doing a little kissing. And then your brain clicks in, is like, you know what? This is a good idea. So we want to understand what camp we are in, and also be willing to understand that this could change. It might change because you're on vacation and you're really, really relaxed, and there's all these opportunities to get it on, right? It might change because you're in the part of your cycle of ovulation, which your body is signaling to you, time to make a baby, we should get it on. You might notice that you're experiencing more spontaneous desire at the beginning of your relationship because everything's exciting, everything's fun. Of course, you want to get it on. Now, responsive desire can happen for a number of different reasons. And the main thing for you to understand is one type of desire is no better than the other. Okay. Now, coming back to our question, why is it that I could be having incredible, amazing sex and not want it? Well, let's first of all just level the playing fields here and understand the fact that for most of the women, especially the ones that I work with, have a shit ton of things going on in their life. They have kids, they have a career, they have a business that they're working on, they have dreams, they have aspirations, they're making waves in the world, they're taking action on matters and values that really are important to them. Okay. Now, because of the way that we're socialized, guess what gets put at the bottom of the list? You, your pleasure, you feeling good, you taking care of yourself. And if you especially are in a heterosexual relationship, the way that we look at our pleasure, the way that we look at our sexuality is for the enjoyment of somebody else. So now, not only do you have all these other things that society is telling you are the most important thing for you to tend your attention to give your time to give your energy to, but we also have sexuality that's put into this bucket of this isn't really for you. It's probably something that you should give your husband. It's probably something that you should, not think too much about, that you should want, but don't want it too much. So it makes sense why we wouldn't want to lean into it, why we wouldn't want it. Then coupling that with responsive desire, of course, you don't want it. The key, though, here is for you not to make you not wanting it a big deal. What happens with most of us is we notice that we don't want it like we once did. Or maybe your partner is initiating, or maybe there's things going on and you're like, "Ugh, I feel like I should really want this. I feel bad. I haven't been in the mood for so long. What's the matter with me?" And we get in our heads about it and we make it a really big deal. What I want to start with all of you is instead of making a big deal about this, is to get curious. Maybe I don't want it right now because I had a really long day, because I am raising kiddos and I feel completely touched out, because I'm so excited about the business that I'm building and my mind is completely immersed in what I am creating, right? There's so many different reasons because our mind is being occupied by other things in our life. Now, once we have this awareness, once we have kind of this landscape of what's going on, what you want to start making a shift towards is being willing, creating a willingness to try and find out, to give yourself the container, the opportunity, a scheduled sexy time date with yourself or with your partner to be like, maybe I'm into this. Let's go ahead and start getting it on and find out if we actually are, if I actually am into this. So the willingness is what will help you create the container, create the action so that you can start getting it on. Now, the other thing to keep in mind when you're creating this willingness, right, is I like to also think of just very basic, like other things that we really want to do. We have an intention to do, we want to show up for, and in the moment, we don't want to do it, AKA working out. Okay. This is one for me. It's typically hiking. That is the way that I like to move my body. Now, some of you might be like, well, why wouldn't you want to go on a hike? Listen, I love hiking. I love the woods. You'll hear me talking about the woods and being on trails and being on hikes all the time. And also, when I've decided to go on a hike and the time comes, guess what I don't want to do? I don't want to go on a hike. Not saying every time, but most of the time. Okay. It feels like a drag, especially in the Pacific Northwest when it's raining and I have to put boots on and rain pants. And I know that I'm going to have to clean my dog afterwards. Like there's so many things. And I don't make a big deal about it. Of course, I'm resisting it. because whatever I'm doing right now feels a lot easier than getting all my gear on and going out in this shitty weather and going for a hike. The same kind of mentality can happen all of the time when it comes to our sexuality. We're not thinking about that euphoria that we're going to feel. We're not thinking about that connection. We're not thinking about that flirtiness and like just that mood that's going to put that little sachet in your step the next morning. We are thinking about the fact of how long is it going to take? How much effort? Am I going to lose sleep? Am I even going to have an orgasm? Then I'm going to have to get up and clean up and pee afterwards. Right? That's called resistance. Resistance tends to come up anytime we are trying to do something differently than what our body is currently doing. Your body and your brain want to create the path of least resistance. So you getting turned on, you getting in the mood, you getting into this sexy time action feels like too much effort. Okay. So now we could also go into talking about why, right? And if the sex was better. But again, this is in the situation where the sex is pretty good. You actually really like it and you're not wanting it. So that's what I have got for you today. What I want you to think about is that desire, that leaning in. Sometimes you need to create the space for willingness to start getting it on so that your brain has a chance and your body has a chance to begin to get into the mood so that sexy time feels like a good idea. There's nothing wrong with you. We just have different ways that we have to understand our brain so that we can begin to start leaning in to what's actually available in your body. Okay, everybody, as always, it's my pleasure to be with you here this week. Can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. Let me know. Have you ever experienced this before? This idea where you're actually having really great sex and you don't want it. What has been your experience? Have you put these steps into action? Let me know how it goes. And if you want to take this work even deeper, then go to my website, daniellesavory.com. Check out the courses that I have there. The Sexy Revamp is going to take you step by step through each one of these to help you open up, rewire your brain, experience more orgasms, create the deep and lasting connection that you want, and rewire your brain for a little bit more pleasure and a little bit more optimization. Okay, until next week, everybody. Can't wait to talk to you again.